We've spent decades pointing telescopes at stars thousands of light years away, searching for signs of life in the distant universe. But here's the thing, no one talks about enough. There are places right here in our own solar system, worlds we can reach with spacecraft we've already built, where the conditions for life may already exist, where liquid water is not a theory, where chemistry is happening right now that we don't fully understand. We've been looking so far away that we almost missed what's been sitting next door the entire time. Today, we're going to go through the most compelling candidates for life in our own solar system. Not distant exoplanets, not hypothetical worlds, real places, moons and planets we have visited, photographed, and in some cases, landed on. Places where the evidence is mounting, the questions are sharpening, and the possibility of finding something, even something microscopic, even something long dead, is more serious than it has ever been. Some of what we're about to discuss is settled science. Some of it is actively debated, and at least one of it may already have an answer we're not ready to accept. Let's start close and work outward. Mars is the most studied planet beyond Earth. We have sent more spacecraft to Mars than to any other destination in the solar system. We have orbiters mapping it from above, landers sitting on its surface, and rovers driving across its plains and into its craters, drilling into its rocks and analyzing the chemistry of its soil. And what we found is this: Mars was not always the frozen desert it is today. About 3 to 4 billion years ago, Mars had a thicker atmosphere. It had a global magnetic field protecting it from solar radiation, and it had liquid water, not just puddles, but rivers, lakes, and possibly a shallow ocean covering its entire northern hemisphere. We can see the evidence in the geology: ancient riverbeds carved into rock, lake sediments deposited in layers over millions of years, minerals that only form in the presence of liquid water. For hundreds of millions of years, early Mars looked more like early Earth than it looks like anything today. Now think about what that actually means. Life appeared on Earth roughly 3.7 billion years ago, possibly earlier. At that exact moment in history, Mars was warm, wet, and chemically active. If the conditions that produced life on Earth are not unique to Earth, if they're just conditions, reproducible wherever the ingredients exist, then life may have appeared on Mars during the same window. But here's where it gets strange. Around 3.5 billion years ago, Mars lost its magnetic field. No one fully understands why. Without it, solar wind stripped away the atmosphere over hundreds of millions of years. The planet cooled. The water froze or evaporated. The surface became the barren, radiation-blasted landscape we see today. But the underground didn't freeze at the same rate. In 2018, the European Space Agency's Marsus radar instrument detected what appeared to be a liquid water lake buried beneath the south polar ice cap of Mars, about 1.5 kilometers below the surface, roughly 20 kilometers across. The temperature down there is far below the normal freezing point of water, but the pressure of the ice above and the dissolved salts in the water keep it liquid. The same mechanism that allows liquid water to exist beneath the ice of Antarctica on Earth. And in Antarctica's subglacial lakes, completely isolated from sunlight, oxygen, and the surface for millions of years, we have found life. Bacteria, thriving. If liquid water exists beneath Mars today, it has been there for billions of years. And if life arose on Mars during its warm, wet period and managed to retreat underground as the surface became hostile, it may still be there. Dormant or not dormant at all? We don't know. We haven't looked directly. Every Mars mission so far has studied the surface. The subsurface remains almost completely unexplored. The answer to whether life exists on Mars right now may be 1.5 kilometers beneath the ice, and we haven't drilled there yet. Jupiter has 95 known moons. Most of them are rocks, small, frozen, airless, uninteresting. But one of them is different in a way that has made it one of the highest priority targets in the entire search for life beyond Earth. Europa is roughly the size of our moon. Its surface is covered entirely in ice. From the outside, it looks cold and dead, a smooth white sphere marked only by long reddish-brown cracks running across its face, like lines on a cracked eggshell. But beneath that ice, something remarkable is happening. In 1979, The Voyager spacecraft flew past Europa and noticed something odd about its surface. The ice wasn't old. It was geologically young, constantly being refreshed. That meant something beneath it was moving, churning, breaking the old ice and replacing it with new material from below. Then, in 1995, the Galileo spacecraft arrived at Jupiter and spent 8 years studying the system in detail. Its magnetic field measurements revealed something definitive. Europa has a global saltwater ocean beneath its ice shell. Not a lake, not a pocket of slush. A full ocean, covering the entire moon with more liquid water than exists on the surface of Earth. Let that land for a moment. Europa is smaller than our moon, and it contains more liquid water than our entire planet. The ocean is kept liquid not by sunlight. Europa is 5 times further from the sun than Earth, and sunlight barely reaches its surface, let alone its ocean floor, but by tidal heating. Jupiter's immense gravity constantly squeezes and stretches Europa as it orbits, generating heat through friction in the moon's interior. The same mechanism that drives the volcanic activity on another of Jupiter's moons, Io. But here's where it gets genuinely interesting. On Earth, we find life in the deep ocean around hydrothermal vents, cracks in the ocean floor, where superheated water rich in minerals pours out from the planet's interior. These ecosystems receive no sunlight whatsoever. They are powered entirely by chemical energy from the Earth's interior, and they are teeming with life. Tube worms meters long, shrimp, bacteria, entire ecosystems built on chemistry alone. Europa's ocean floor is almost certainly in contact with a rocky, geologically active interior. There may be hydrothermal vents on Europa's ocean floor right now, pumping mineral-rich water into a global ocean that has been liquid for billions of years. Every ingredient we associate with life on Earth, liquid water, chemical energy, organic molecules, mineral gradients, may exist on Europa today. In 2024, NASA's Europa Clipper spacecraft launched toward Jupiter. It will arrive in 2030 and begin detailed study of Europa's ocean, its ice shell, and its surface chemistry. It is not designed to land or drill, but it will tell us more about what's in that ocean than we've ever known. And if the evidence it finds is compelling enough, the mission after it might be the one that goes through the ice. Would you go there, knowing what might be waiting in that dark water below? In 2005, the Cassini spacecraft flew past Enceladus, a small, icy moon of Saturn, about 500 kilometers across, and detected something that no one expected: geysers. From the south pole of Enceladus, enormous plumes of water vapor and ice particles were erupting into space, blasting material hundreds of kilometers above the surface, some of it escaping into Saturn's orbit entirely and forming Saturn's outermost ring. This was not supposed to happen. Enceladus is tiny. It should be frozen solid. It should be geologically dead. There is no obvious reason it should have the internal heat necessary to produce liquid water, let alone shoot it into space. And yet, there it was. Over the following years, Cassini flew through those plumes repeatedly, analyzing their contents directly. What it found is still discussed in quiet, careful tones in laboratories around the world. The plumes contain water vapor. They contain organic molecules, carbon-based chemistry, the building blocks of biology as we know it. They contain silica particles that only form when liquid water interacts with rock at temperatures above 90 degrees Celsius, indicating active hydrothermal chemistry on the ocean floor. And in 2017, Cassini detected molecular hydrogen in the plumes. Molecular hydrogen is produced by a specific chemical reaction between hot water and rock, a reaction that, on Earth, provides the energy source for entire ecosystems of microorganisms living around hydrothermal vents. Let's be precise about what this means. Enceladus is actively venting into space, and what it is venting contains the chemical products of exactly the kind of reactions that support life in Earth's deep oceans. We did not have to drill into the ice to find this. Enceladus sent it up to us. The ocean beneath Enceladus's ice is global, like Europa's. It has been liquid for potentially billions of years. It has an energy source, hydrothermal activity, on its floor. It has organic chemistry. It has the right temperature gradients. Every condition we associate with the origin of life on Earth is present on a moon of Saturn right now. In 2032, NASA plans to launch the Dragonfly mission, but that's going to Titan. There is currently no approved mission to send a spacecraft back to Enceladus, with instruments designed to detect life in those plumes. We know where to look. We know what to look for. We have the technology to build a mission that could fly through those geysers and directly sample the contents of an alien ocean. We just haven't sent it yet. And this is where everything breaks down, not in the science, but in the timeline. We have found a moon that is essentially handing us samples of its subsurface ocean, and we are not moving as quickly as the evidence suggests we should. Saturn's largest moon, Titan, is the only moon in the solar system with a thick atmosphere. Not a thin layer of gas, a dense, nitrogen-rich atmosphere 1.5 times the pressure of Earth's at sea level. If you stood on Titan's surface, you wouldn't need a pressure suit. The atmosphere is thick enough to breathe in terms of pressure. You would just need oxygen, because Titan's air is nitrogen and methane, not oxygen, and you would need to stay warm. Titan's surface temperature is negative 179 degrees Celsius, about negative 290 Fahrenheit, cold enough to freeze methane into a liquid, which is exactly what happens. Titan has a complete hydrological cycle, but instead of water evaporating, forming clouds, and raining back down, Titan does all of this with methane. Methane evaporates from its surface, forms clouds in the atmosphere, and rains down, filling rivers and lakes and seas that cover parts of its surface. In the northern hemisphere, Titan has seas of liquid methane, hundreds of kilometers across, and hundreds of meters deep. The largest, Kraken Mare, is roughly the size of the Caspian Sea. Imagine standing on the shore of a methane sea. The sky is orange, thick with atmospheric haze. The light is dim, like a heavily overcast day on Earth. Waves move slowly across the surface. Methane is less viscous than water, so the waves are small and gentle. The horizon is closer than on Earth because Titan is smaller. And somewhere overhead, methane clouds are building toward rain. Everything familiar, everything completely alien. Now here's the thing that makes astrobiologists genuinely excited about Titan. Life as we know it requires liquid water as a solvent, the medium in which chemistry happens. But liquid water isn't uniquely special in that role. It's just what life on Earth uses. The question scientists have been asking is, could life use a different solvent? Could chemistry complex enough to reproduce itself arise in liquid methane? In 2015, researchers at Cornell University used quantum chemistry calculations to propose a specific type of cell membrane, made not from the fatty molecules that form Earth cell membranes, but from nitrogen-containing organic molecules that could be stable in liquid methane at Titan's temperatures. They called it an azotosome. It would function like a cell membrane, separating chemistry on the inside from chemistry on the outside, just in methane instead of water. This is theoretical. No one has ever observed an azotosome. No one has found life in liquid methane. We don't even know if methane-based chemistry can produce the complexity required for reproduction. But the question is no longer considered absurd. It is considered open. In 2027, NASA will launch the Dragonfly mission, a rotorcraft lander designed to fly across Titan's surface, landing at multiple sites, analyzing the chemistry of the surface and atmosphere in detail. It will look for complex organic molecules. It will look for evidence of chemical disequilibrium, a sign that something is consuming and producing chemicals in patterns inconsistent with simple geology. It will not find a fish in a methane sea, but it might find something that makes us ask harder questions about what life actually is and what conditions it actually requires. Venus is not where anyone expected to look for life. Its surface temperature is 465 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead. Its atmospheric pressure at the surface is 92 times that of Earth, the equivalent of being 900 meters underwater. Its clouds are made of sulfuric acid. It is, by almost every measure, the most hostile planetary surface in the solar system. But here's what almost everyone forgets about Venus. 50 kilometers above the surface, the temperature drops to somewhere between 30 and 70 degrees Celsius. The atmospheric pressure at that altitude is roughly Earth's sea level pressure. And the clouds at that altitude, the thick, sulfuric acid clouds that make Venus so bright in our sky, are made of tiny droplets that would actually be hospitable to microbial life if those microbes were adapted to an acid environment. On Earth, We have found microbes living in conditions that would have seemed equally impossible not long ago. Extremophiles that survive in hydrothermal vents at temperatures above boiling. Bacteria that live in the most acidic lakes on Earth. Organisms that thrive in the absence of oxygen, in the presence of radiation levels that would kill most life instantly. The acid clouds of Venus, the same ones that reflect sunlight and make Venus the second brightest object in our night sky after the moon, sit at the right temperature, the right pressure, and contain enough water and sulfur chemistry to theoretically sustain microbial life. Life that never touches the surface. Life that floats in the clouds, carried by the wind, cycling through the atmosphere indefinitely. In September 2020, astronomer Jane Greaves at Cardiff University announced the detection of phosphine in Venus's atmosphere. Phosphine is a molecule, one phosphorus atom bound to 3 hydrogen atoms, that on Earth is produced either by industrial processes or by anaerobic bacteria. No known non-biological chemistry on Venus should produce phosphine in the quantities detected. The announcement caused an immediate sensation and an immediate controversy. Other teams reanalyzed the data and disputed the detection. The original team revised their numbers downward. The debate has continued for years. As of now, the phosphine signal remains contested. Some researchers believe it's real, others believe it was an artifact of the data analysis. But here's what's not contested. The conditions in Venus's upper atmosphere, the temperature, the pressure, the chemistry, are plausibly compatible with extremophile microbial life. And we have almost no data from that region of Venus's atmosphere. No spacecraft has been designed specifically to float in those clouds and analyze what's there in detail. We dismissed Venus because its surface is an inferno. We almost missed the fact that 50 kilometers above that inferno, the conditions are not so different from home. Europa gets most of the attention, but it is not the only moon of Jupiter with a subsurface ocean. Ganymede, Jupiter's largest moon and the largest moon in the entire solar system, bigger than the planet Mercury, has a subsurface saltwater ocean confirmed by the Hubble Space Telescope in 2015. The ocean is estimated to be 800 kilometers deep, buried beneath 150 kilometers of ice. For comparison, Earth's oceans average about 3.7 kilometers in depth. Ganymede's ocean contains more water than all of Earth's surface water combined. Callisto, Jupiter's outermost large moon, also shows signs of a subsurface ocean in its magnetic field data, though less definitively confirmed. It too is covered in ice. It too may have liquid water beneath. Now think about what this means. In the Jupiter system alone, we have at least 3 moons, Europa, Ganymede, and possibly Callisto, with subsurface oceans. 3 separate bodies, each with more liquid water than Earth, all orbiting the same planet. The conditions in Ganymede's ocean are less favorable than Europa's. The ocean is buried so deeply beneath ice that the seafloor is likely covered in a form of high-pressure ice rather than rock, meaning the water may not be in contact with the mineral-rich, rocky interior that could provide chemical energy. That's a significant problem. On Earth, life in the deep ocean depends on that chemical energy. But less favorable is not the same as impossible. And Ganymede is only one data point. The broader point is this: subsurface liquid water oceans are apparently not exotic. They are not rare. In our solar system alone, we have confirmed or strongly suspected them on Europa, Ganymede, Enceladus, and Titan, and possibly Callisto, Mimas, Dione, and Pluto. That's potentially 8 worlds with liquid water oceans in a solar system with 8 planets. If liquid water is this common in a solar system as ordinary as ours, the number of ocean worlds across the galaxy is staggering. And if life arises wherever the conditions exist for long enough, we may be living in a universe that is quietly full of it, hidden beneath ice, in the dark, in oceans we haven't found yet. On July 20th, 1976, NASA's Viking 1 lander touched down on the surface of Mars. It was the first spacecraft to successfully operate on the Martian surface, and one of its primary missions was to look for life. Viking carried 4 biology experiments designed to detect metabolic activity in Martian soil, the chemical signatures of living organisms consuming nutrients and producing gases. The experiments were remarkably sophisticated for 1976, and when the results came back, they were startling. One of the 4 experiments, the labeled release experiment, designed by scientist Gilbert Levin, gave a positive result. Martian soil, when given a nutrient solution, produced a burst of gas consistent with metabolic activity. Consistent, in other words, with living microorganisms eating and breathing. NASA's official conclusion was that the result was a false positive, caused by reactive chemicals in the Martian soil rather than biology. The other experiments had not detected organic molecules, which most scientists considered a necessary condition for life. The consensus settled: no life detected. But here's the part that doesn't go away. Gilbert Levin spent the rest of his career arguing that the labeled release result was genuine, that the reactive chemicals hypothesis doesn't fully explain the data, that the conclusion was reached too quickly by scientists who were not ready to accept what the evidence was suggesting. In the decades since Viking, we've discovered that the reactive chemical hypothesis has its own problems. We've found perchlorate, a highly reactive oxidizing chemical, in Martian soil, which could explain the false positive. But we've also found that perchlorate-resistant bacteria exist on Earth. Bacteria that can survive in perchlorate-rich environments. And we've since discovered that Viking's organic molecule detector may have been less sensitive than previously assumed, possibly burning off any organic molecules it was trying to detect. We may have tested Martian soil for life in 1976, gotten a positive result, decided it was wrong, and moved on. No mission since Viking has carried a life detection experiment with the same directness. Curiosity, perseverance. They study chemistry and geology. They look for the conditions for life, not life itself. The Viking result remains officially unexplained, not definitively debunked. Unexplained. And the scientist who designed the experiment believed until his death that we found what we were looking for in 1976 and didn't recognize it. Let's say we find it. Not a signal from a distant star, not a radio transmission from another civilization. Something small, a fossilized microbe in a Martian rock, a chemical signature in Enceladus's plumes that can only be explained by biology, a pattern in Titan's atmosphere that matches metabolism. What does that actually mean? On the surface, it means life exists beyond Earth, that we are not alone, that biology is not a singular accident that happened once, in one place, never to be repeated. But there's a deeper implication that scientists talk about in quieter terms. If we find life in our solar system, independently evolved in a completely separate environment, it means life is not rare. It means that wherever the right conditions exist, life tends to appear. It means the universe is probably full of it. And if the universe is full of life, simple life, microbial life, life that has been evolving in oceans and atmospheres across billions of years, then the question is no longer whether complex life exists elsewhere. The question becomes, where is it? Why haven't we heard from it? Why is the sky, despite being full of potentially inhabited worlds, completely silent? That question has a name, the Fermi paradox. And finding life in our own solar system would make it far more urgent than it already is. Because if life is common, if it arises wherever conditions allow, then intelligent life should be common too. And if intelligent life is common, some of it should be old enough, advanced enough, and close enough that we should have detected some sign of it by now. The fact that we haven't is one of the most unsettling puzzles in science. Finding a microbe on Europa doesn't solve that puzzle. It deepens it. We started with a simple question. Could there be life in our own solar system? And we found that the answer is not no. Mars may have hosted it billions of years ago, and may still harbor it underground. Europa and Enceladus have oceans that may have been liquid longer than life has existed on Earth. Titan has chemistry that challenges our definition of what life actually requires. Venus has a layer of atmosphere where the conditions are, unexpectedly, not entirely hostile. And in 1976, we may have run an experiment on Martian soil that gave us the answer we were looking for, and talked ourselves out of believing it. We are not searching blindly. We know where to look. We have missions planned, spacecraft building, instruments being calibrated. The next 2 decades of solar system exploration will be more focused on the question of life than any period in history. And somewhere in this solar system, on a world we have already photographed, already mapped, already named, the answer may already exist, waiting in the dark, in the cold, in the water, for us to finally build something capable of reaching it.